About that.
Yes, so I'm the son of Pete El Condes Rodriguez, one of the best salsa singers in the world. So in the house, obviously, I listen to my dad's music, and we listen to a lot of music from Cuba. Papi was a big fan of Miguelito Cuni, Benny More, um, and he also listened to a lot of percussion players. So first of all, those that type of music, and then also listening to a lot of the Fania All Star singers, Joe Feliciano, Hector Lavoe, Papo Luca, my godfather Johnny Pacheco. Uh, Also, I'm a huge fan of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Philip Bailey. I mean, with his falsetto, is amazing. I also love Elder Barge, Michael Jackson, and living in the Bronx, the birth of hip hop. You know, Cool and Run DMC, Sugar Hill Gang, LL Cool J. And then I also, when I moved to Puerto Rico, I started playing a lot of classical music. That's the first style I started playing was classical music. So, I listened to, I love Beethoven and Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony was my favorite. New World Symphony by Dvorak. So there's a big mixture of different styles.
Yeah, and like jazz itself is a mixture of different styles that influences each individual musician, and obviously in your case, a broad range of different musical influences.
Yeah. And you notice I didn't mention jazz yet because I started listening to jazz like after I got out the army when I was about 22. I
Interesting.
started really late.
What artist brought you into the jazz realm?
Oh man, I think one of the first cats I checked out was Train. And it's an interesting story. I remember I bought the CD Giant Steps at the Tower Records in downtown Austin. I was driving back to Killeen when I was in the Army. And when I heard 26-2 and Giant Steps, man, I got so depressed because I was like, there's no way I can do this. It just sounded so complicated. First of all, I didn't know what he was doing. I mean, I had good ears and I knew that what he was doing was extremely difficult. And I got depressed, man. I just pulled over on the side of the road on I-35. I was like, how am I going to execute this without any guidance? And then when I got out of the military, I went to Rutgers University and I started studying with a guy named Mr. William Fielder. And he's helped produce to me the best trumpet players in the world, starting with, Mr. Wynton Marsalis, Terrence Blanchard, Michael Philip Mosman, Terrell Stafford, Sean Jones. And then that's when I started listening to, Clifford Brown. And I started trying to imitate his articulation because his articulation was no joke. And then another cat that a lot of people forget, his name is Booker Little. And those two cats were amazing technicians. And then I was, I always tried to imitate their articulation, try to, we sound clean.
Yeah. Now, this current CD, this current album, is dedicated to your dad.
Yes, it
You want
is.
to talk a little bit about the either the motivation for obviously the motivation is your dad, but some of the tunes on there that really mean something to you.
Well, absolutely. There's so many. Like all the tunes on the record have a story. We could be talking all day. I know we don't have that much time, but the first tune on the track is a vocal tune that was written by a wonderful composer, singer, and an actor. His name is Ruben Blades. Everybody knows him as Ruben Blades. And Papi, I was told that he wrote that tune for Papi, and it's one of my favorites. It's called Tambo, and he's talking about the drum. And I had heard Papi. I was Papi's musical director for about 10 years. So Papi used to sing it on all his gigs. And it's one of my favorites. And I've been wanting to record it for a long time, but I couldn't come up with an arrangement that sounded different from what Papi did. And I didn't want to do anything similar. So, and also it was actually extremely difficult for me to do anything I guess maybe 8 years ago because when he passed away, I got into a really bad depression and I stopped playing my horn for about 3 years. And every time I would listen to him, let's say if he was being played in a car or if I would be at a party, I would just break down and cry, because especially in the car, since he would sing in the car with us, it almost sounded like he was right next to me, and I couldn't handle it, you know. So, and I would try to sing in the house, and every time I start singing, I would just break down and cry. Or if somebody would come up to me and ask me, "Hey, you're the son of Pete. Can you tell me some stories about him?" I could never finish a story. So after my daughter was born, I think my daughter just gave me that strength. And my mother started playing a lot of my father for my daughter. And then I remember I would go to my mother's house with my daughter, and she'll play Papi. And my mother would be like, Nayeli, who's that singing? And it could be someone else, but whenever she played Papi, she knew from a very young age. And I thought that was extremely impressive. And then I started feeling better about it. And for years, I actually stopped listening to my dad. In order for me, I felt like I needed that to heal, and also to get those arrangements out of my head, because I didn't want to do anything similar to that. And then one day, it took me about 8, 9 years to actually write Tambo. But a couple of days ago, I was telling my wife, I was like, babe, I found a sheet of paper of the first draft. And in that draft, I wrote that I had written Tambo in 25 minutes, the new arrangement. But it took me about 9 years to sit down and write, because every time I would go to the piano and try to write something, nothing would come out.
That's an amazing story. I've got connections with you on so many different levels. My dad passed away about the same time. Mm-hmm. So I know exactly what you mean about trying to get away from that. So we want to listen to one of the tracks from this CD. It's called Tambo. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Tambo, I think the most amazing thing about this song is that my daughter talks about my father. She never got to meet him, right? Only through his music. And, you know, she's 4. We just told her, my wife was there, and we were sitting in the studio, and we said, Mommy, just talk to Abuelo. What do you want to tell Abuelo? And you know, you guys are going to hear it in just a minute, and I think it's just impressive. And every time I play it in my car, or I have it on my phone, I have to play back her voice at least 3-4 times before I let the CD, that tune play. And I'm not going to say anything else. Let's let the people hear this.
Abuelo Pete in Conde, I miss you very much. I never got to saw him. He lived in the sky. He's always with me. He's everywhere. God put some magic dust to be here, but you can't see him. He's everywhere, but you can't see him, just like God.
Tambo, en su réplica se encierra el misterio de la vida, de la muerte y la pasión. Tambo, con tu cadencioso ritmo, hace brotar en la gente desde el alma la emoción.
I miss you, Abuelo Pete, and I love you very much.
Sabes expresar las penas, pues conoces el dolor. Tu vibrar causa alegría. Si es alegre la ocasión. Tambo, expresión de sentimiento que la piel desde muy dentro, que interpreta el corazón. Tambo, siempre te pide la gente pa' decir lo que ella siente, pues tu idioma es el mejor. Sabes expresar las penas, pues conoces el dolor. Tu vibrar causa alegría, si es alegre la ocasión.
Jazz 91.7 KRTU. That was Pete Rodriguez from his album Caminando con Papi, and that was the tune Tambo. And today on Evolve, we have a very special feature today. Our featured artist is Pete Rodriguez, and we've been chatting with him about his music and taking a listen to some of the tracks here on this new album. Another tune from this album I want to take a listen to is El Camaleon. I'm saying it like a gringo.
Yeah, El Camaleón.
Tell us a little bit about that tune.
Well, El Camaleón, it's one of those tunes, like I grew up in neighborhoods where I feel like you had to be real. And I learned from my dad to treat everybody equal, right? And growing up in the Bronx and in Puerto Rico, in the neighborhoods that I did grow up, were great neighborhoods, but they were tough neighborhoods that you had to be strong, And the cool thing I liked about my neighborhoods was that, you knew who your friends were, and you knew who the people that didn't like you, you know who they were. So when I wrote El Camaleón, I wrote it thinking about how flexible you have to be in life, especially as an adult. And these are experiences that I witnessed my dad going through. You know, he had a wonderful career, but he had a lot of challenges. Being a dark skinned Puerto Rico in the 50s, in the military, in New York City, growing up, it wasn't easy. And he treated everybody equal. Um, and to me, that's the most important thing that I learned from my dad. Like, even when people would, I guess, screw him over, on gigs with money, he would be upset, but he would forgive them so fast. And I was like, how does he do that? And to me, that was extremely impressive, right? And the way I am as a human being, I feel like I'm very similar to my dad. And as far as I treat everybody equal, if I'm talking to the dean at Texas State, I'm like, hey, what's up, Dean Mote? How you feeling? How's everything? You look good, man. Love that bow tie, right? And if I'm in Austin, I'm at a light and I see a homeless person, I'm like, hey, how are you doing? How can I help you? And, are you drinking enough water? Take care of yourself, And then I noticed that I went through some challenges in several different jobs that I've had, throughout my career. I mean, I've worked at universities. I was a physical therapist aide. I mean, I used to clean offices when I was in college. I worked basically something equivalent to like Academy, selling sneakers and, watches and all that. I've dealt with different people um, and I've dealt with a lot of challenges. And at times, I wasn't as flexible because I'm like, well, wait, don't treat me that way. I'm a human being, and I wouldn't understand. Like, well, sometimes you do got to bend, and my wife's kind of like my life coach. She's like, well, you should have done this and you should have done that. And Chameleon's about that, about adjusting to life and knowing when to shut up, when to listen,
How to go with the flow, how to adapt, how to blend in, and get along.
And sometimes, I'm not good at that, especially if I'm mistreated. I don't believe in that.
Well, let's take a listen to it. This is El Camaleon. Say it again for me, Pete.
El Camaleón.
El Camaleon. And as you're listening to Evolve on KRTU San Antonio. Jazz 91.7 KRTU. Pete Rodriguez from his album Caminando con Papi, and that was El Camaleon. And we've been chatting with Pete Rodriguez, who is our featured artist here in the program today. Glad you are tuned in. Hope you am enjoying the conversations and enjoying discussing the music and getting a little bit more in depth here. Pete is having a CD release party this evening at Carmen's, and that is why he has been here chatting with him on the music. We get more discussion with this and more music right after this short break.
KRTU thanks Twang Partners Limited for their support of growing jazz in San Antonio. KRTU's signature initiative aimed at cultivating the next generation of jazz fans and musicians. Twang is a San Antonio-based company whose products include flavored salts, sugars, and spices for garnishing beverages and cocktails. More information is online at twang.com. Together with KRTU, Twang is growing jazz in San Antonio.
Shut up and play your horn. Tell me about that tune.
Well, a couple of things about that. I've been listening to a lot of Woody Shaw lately, and this cat is ridiculous when it comes to like in crazy intervals and fourths, so it's like I started working on fourths, and like the opening statement, starts with a whole long, line with fourths, and also starts with a low F natural concert E flat on the trumpet, which normally people don't play low F naturals, so I have a new trumpet by Austin Winds, and they made me a Pete Rodriguez model, and I can really get a solid low F natural, which is kind of awesome since I love playing low notes. But the main thing behind this story is like, I have encountered in jobs that I've had, people that are just constantly talking, but they can't back it up. I just said to, just one guy once was like, dude, just shut up and play your horn, man. And that's how it came about, that crazy melody. And I wrote this tune like in, 10 minutes.
Shut up and play your horn on KRTU San Antonio. Energy from that was Shut Up and Play Your Horn by Pete Rodriguez. This is from the album Caminando con Papi. You're listening to Evolve. This is the show that's all about brand new jazz recordings. I'm your host, Barry Goettle. We've been talking with Pete Rodriguez, our featured artist here in the program, and getting some inside information on his new album and some of the motivations and stories behind the music. So another track on this is titled Arlene. Can you tell me a little bit about the motivation behind that?
Yeah, so Arlene is a blues that I wrote. So I was at a coffee shop with a friend of mine at Rutgers University. We were off campus having coffee. And at that time, I was listening to a lot of Thelonious Monk. And I had several conversations with my dad about Monk, because he used to run into Monk on Amsterdam Avenue in New York City. And so I was doing my research and listening to a lot of Monk, and I loved his rhythmic concept and his melodies. That some of them were very simple, some of them were very funky, So while I was talking to my friend Arlene, I started singing the melody of this tune, Arlene. So I was like, well, man, I kind of like this melody. So I said, let me figure out how I can record this, because this was back in like 93, 94. No cell phones. So I said, Arlene, give me a second. I need to go do something. So I left the coffee shop, went outside, went to a payphone, called my house, and left a message with the melody. And then I went back inside and I had coffee, kept on drinking coffee. And then when I went home, I transcribed the melody of the blues.
Arlene, an idea inspired during the days of voice messages.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Support for KRTU comes from South Texas Jazz, presenting Holiday Swing on Tuesday, December 3rd at the Charlene McCombs Empire Theater. Brent Doc Watkins and his 18-piece jazz orchestra will perform holiday classics such as Jingle Bells, Winter Wonderland, and selections from A Charlie Brown Christmas. Tickets are available at 800-745-3000 or at the Majestic Theater box office. Holiday Swing at the Charlene McCombs Empire Theater, Tuesday, December 3rd at 7:30 p.m. More information at southtexasjazz.com.
You're tuned in to listener-supported jazz programming on the FM dialway of 91.7 from Trinity University's KRTU.
We start off that set with music from Pete Rodriguez, a trumpeter from Austin area. He's in town, is promoting his album Caminando con Papi. He's got a CD release party this evening at Carmen's. And we took one from there in that set to start things off, and that was the tune Arlene. I want to thank Pete for coming in and talking about his music, giving us an insight not only on his musical influences, but the stories behind the specific tracks that we listen to. What a great time I had talking with him about the music. I hope you enjoyed that too.